Ready to go, Kita?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we've been
Just making sure.
going for 10 minutes now.
Okay,
really?
well, this is where
I thought we were doing like
I
a
was waiting for you to
silent
light the candles.
No,
Shavasana
this
on
is
the
where
front.
this is where you should start it.
Here.
Cool.
Hi, we're starting right now. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Kita. Listen, look, this is a hard one to get into because
Let's just get into it.
Just jump in.
no, but this is going to be a very special episode, and not today.
A very special
Listen, Jen,
episode.
we-
Do you remember those?
Jen,
do
we
you remember
love
those?
you. You are in a safe space.
Thank you.
Very safe.
Do you remember those
Very special episodes?
very
yeah.
special
Yeah,
episodes
I
when
remember when
TV
Dudley
shows?
got diddled on different strokes.
I don't remember that one, but that was your generation, not
It was
mine.
my generation.
My
It's a very
gener-
shocking episode.
My generation's special episodes were when Punky Brewster got locked. Fred got locked in the fridge
Oh, I don't.
because
Yeah, I
you know
remember
so many children were running around
that
playing,
was a epidemic in
playing,
the 80s.
playing in abandoned fridges.
of kids getting locked in fridges.
Was that really or no?
Well, they made it seem like it was.
Yeah.
Like that was the number one childhood killer was being locked in a fridge.
Do you remember that episode? No.
Well, that and blades and apples during Halloween.
Blades and apples locked in a fridge were the two leading causes.
Like, who the fuck was eating apples
Right.
on Halloween anyway?
Yeah, no.
now it's just
absolutely not.
guns, which is normal.
There was that one, and then of course the "Say by the Bell." I'm so excited episode. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, well, she got hooked on.
She hooked on caffeine pills.
caffeine pills. Yeah.
Okay.
And they had to she was like shaking, and they had to hold.
She
it
was like,
down.
"I'm so excited.
And
I'm
she started
so
crying.
scared." Listen, I feel like that after I drink a Celsius. I don't know how Colton drinks like 7 rains a day or whatever he's up to
He doesn't
now.
drink 7 rains a day.
How many rains?
He self-regulates very well on that stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, I had one yesterday. I can't have one today.
Oh.
He's not like
nice.
me. I'd be like fucking double fit. I'd be stone cold Steve Austin.
You were having multiple 5-hour energies.
Yeah.
A day.
I'm bad with caffeine.
You were having 10-hour
which
energies.
does not help my. Yeah, I was up to 15-hour energy.
Which is literally that is a symptom of ADHD,
Yeah, I
dude.
know, I know.
Get tested.
I know.
Get tested for the love of God.
I
But
am.
like, look, by the time this airs, I will have had a very interesting week.
Are you prepared for the week? Do you think you know what's coming?
I don't think you can ever. I think the biggest mistake is thinking you're prepared.
Because
for the
you've
week.
sort of. I'm not saying you've been through this before, but you've been through the ringer before with this shit, with this same topic.
Yes and no, because it's interesting. So for those of you that aren't aware, last summer I participated in a Netflix documentary. I shot it last summer, and then we shot like some pickups in December. And it's about my time when I worked at the Jets, and then subsequently like the whole media scandal that happened after it 2 years later. And it's interesting because every time I revisit this, it feels different. Like it feels like I've learned something between the last time I talked about it and whatever this time is.
You've changed and grown.
I've changed.
evolved.
I've evolved, but also my lens through which I view it kind of changes.
Well, the world's different too.
Absolutely. And every time it comes up, it's usually there's a different political climate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think there's always going to be pushback when look, when I shot this, I really thought we'd be in a different place as a society.
I think we all hoped for that.
Do you know what I mean? Like I thought we would be in a different place. I thought, this is a world post Me Too. But I guess I really underestimated the amount of hatred that comes toward women who want to tell their stories, especially against powerful men.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that, as much as I think I can be prepared for it, I don't know that you're ever prepared for it.
No.
So going into this week, obviously, like I'm definitely gonna, take some social media breaks or have somebody else monitor it for me, just because it can be a lot.
I can't even imagine. Can't even imagine opening up the DMs.
And look, that was a big thing when it happened the first time. When it happened in 2010, when it became public in 2010. Twitter was at its heyday. That's when Twitter was actually like used for stuff, That's how I found out we got Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, that's when you could actually have trusted news sources.
From The Rock.
Yeah.
That's
From The Rock.
The people's champ is the most trusted news source, let's be honest. But that's when Twitter was used for that type of stuff.
For good. Mostly for good.
Yeah.
Not whatever.
Until what
now.
happened to me. And I think I talk about it a little bit here sometimes, but occasionally I'll teach sports media classes at like universities and things like that. And the main thing that I think makes me a good speaker in those cases is, look, there's no chance in me ever working in sports again. Like, that ship has sailed, and truly, I'm fine with it.
Right.
You know, I'm fine with not working in sports again because I think sports media is an absolute sham.
Yeah.
I know it's a sham. I've seen how it works from the inside. And I think I'm a valuable asset to like teach kids who are journalist majors, like, hey, this is what you're signing up for. Like, you think you're signing up to like tell stories, and you think you're signing up to
Cover the
like
players
cover interesting news things, and it's like, at the end of the day, you're just an extension for the leagues.
Yeah, you're a propaganda. You're an arm of propaganda.
1,000%. Sports media is just propaganda.
Yeah.
It's not.
Well, most news today has become propaganda. It's just the way it is.
But when I talk to these classes, you know, I tell them, I said, I really hope people look at what happened to me as a cautionary tale of how you digest the news, of how you digest the news, of how you digest the news cycle, you know? And what is it that people, specifically the people that are delivering the message, what is it that they want your reaction to be to this news?
Yeah.
Like, there's so much rage bait out there, and we all fall for it. You know what I mean? Like, we all see a headline and make an immediate snap judgment
It's
on it.
rage bait, and we want confirmation bias, and we want like all these things that don't give us the actual information we need.
Yeah, like so many things I've said, and not just me, so many things people say get taken and put into a headline. And that headline is going to be coded with whatever bias the outlet that's reporting it wants it to have.
Because they have an agenda.
They have an agenda, and that agenda is your eyeballs.
Yeah.
It's your eyeballs. It's you spending
Their
money
shareholders
with
and-
their
yeah.
with their marketing partners. Like, at the end of the day, news is a business.
Yeah.
And we have to like start looking at it that way. You know what I mean? This is like an all sides are bad kind of thing.
No, all sides are bad when it comes to news. I mean, how many trusted news sources are there? You have to weed through everything to go, okay, is this real? You have to check 8 different places to go, okay, this is common in all these places.
And then you have to use your critical thinking skills
It's
to
a lot.
figure out what the actual truth is. And I really feel like that is something that society truly failed me on.
I think of a lot of people.
Huh?
That's failed a lot of people.
But I definitely feel like
Yeah.
it failed me specifically. Because like I rewatched the documentary 2 nights ago with somebody because I wanted someone else to sit there with me and kind of give me a second set of eyeballs on it. You know what I mean? Because the first time I watched it with Netflix, they came to my house and watched it with me.
How was that?
I dissociated.
Right.
I checked out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But watching it back this time, I had this weird epiphany where I was like, I actually feel sorry for Brett Favre.
Wow.
And I never, ever felt that. And I was like, what is this? And I was like, oh, that's like a new level of healing.
Yeah.
Because I really, as much as people got mad at the trailer and they were like, oh, this is going to be a smear piece. This is going to be a hit piece. This is just a campaign against him. The reality is the documentary is very thorough
Yeah.
in taking you through this man's entire career and his entire journey. You know, who he is as a person, who he used to be, what happened, the events that made him who he was.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at somebody as a whole like that, I don't know how other people work, but watching it back this time and not being as triggered, I was just like, wow.
You pitied him.
I did. I was like, I understand why this person is the way they are.
Yeah.
And I think the hardest thing that I've had to struggle with is realizing that I do this in my everyday life all the time. I am very good at empathizing with people and understanding what made them be that way.
Right.
What makes them do the things that are destructive.
But
what
it's not an
makes them,
excuse for the behavior.
that's the part that my brain has trouble with.
Yeah.
Is because I'm like, because I understand people, I almost like give them a pass to
Yeah.
hurt me.
Yeah.
And
but-
that's the part that I'm trying to reconcile myself, because that's the thing that I think people don't realize is I have taken dramatic accountability for this.
Yeah.
because I've had to. Like, if I don't take accountability for my own healing, like, I would have disappeared a long time ago.
13 years I've known you, I've seen you go through so many changes and so many attempts at like trying to help yourself and try to grow yourself and try to better yourself. I've seen you do it countless times.
Yeah.
And it's an ongoing process.
It's an ongoing process. And, you've watched me outgrow people.
Yes.
I've
seen you go, yeah.
And that's, that's the reason my whole divorce happened is because I'm constantly trying to be better than I was yesterday. I'm constantly trying to reconcile with what happened to me and how do I become a better version of myself to protect myself from future things like that happening. And I really hope that the doc that sheds such light on it,
How do you feel after are you, I mean, it's a weird word to say. Are you excited it's coming out? Are you looking forward to it coming out? Or like, are you apprehensive about it coming out? I mean, sure, it's a mixed emotions.
For sure. I thought I was going to be excited about it coming out. And the reality is, I think there's a part of me that's very tentative and very nervous.
Yeah.
And very scared.
I have a little PTSD.
Yeah, and very scared
with it.
Because look, I know what the truth is.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to know what the truth is in a few days because this is the first time that actual proof, like physical proof, is being shown to people. Like the stuff that the NFL looked at and told me to my face, this isn't enough. I think the general public is going to have a different opinion on. Oh, 1,000%.
I wonder what the NFL's reaction will be to the.
They could not be reached for comment.
Really? Because, I mean, when this happened, he was the poster boy for the NFL. He was the face of the league.
One of them.
One of the faces of the league at the time.
Yeah,
well, not just a face, but he was like America boy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? He was like classic.
He's a folk hero.
Folk hero.
He's the closest thing that football has to a folk hero and a legend.
He was at the time. I don't know if
I don't think that stands
No,
today.
it doesn't stand
no,
today.
not at all.
And now it's honestly turned into, instead of just being, is this a good person or a bad person? It's turned into a political divide, which is weird.
That's the part that I'm the most scared of.
Which is weird that it's a political divide.
But it's not weird though. I mean, if you look at the way conservatives and Republicans, they defend this shit.
But
I mean, I don't see them championing women's stuff at all.
No.
But here's the thing. That right there is what I think the issue is. I think somewhere along the way, somewhere during Me Too, it became a man versus woman thing. And I think we are dramatically underestimating the number of men that have experienced similar things and never spoken about it because they either believed they wouldn't be believed or worse, no one would give a shit. I think we have dramatically underestimated because it's like 1 in 4 women was sexually harassed or sexually assaulted by the time they were like a teenager. It's 1 in 6 men. That's a crazy statistic when you think about it. And so I understand how these little subsects of like toxic men took hold. Because there are people out there that are opportunistic, that see this vulnerability in men, that see this what about us in men, and they were like, how do I capitalize off of that? And that's where I think the Me Too movement got it wrong, is they made it about a gender thing and not about a victim thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, when
not
it came
about
out,
a survivor thing.
When it came out, it was a woman thing.
For sure.
Everyone at first, Me Too, that's a woman
But that's where we
thing.
fucked up. It shouldn't be, because then the backlash to that was not all men.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you're supposed to believe all women. Like there's that whole thing of like, so a woman could just say it happened and it happened. Like there was that whole pushback from the other side of like
1,000%.
So,
and that's where I think it comes down to, like, let's look at these situations as a whole for what they are. The fact that I cooperated in the NFL investigation, which by the way, absolute sham of an investigation.
Well, they were just trying to protect the shield. That's all they cared about.
Yeah, and I told them that to their face. They did not like that very much.
No. But you're talking billions of dollars.
But
they're trying to protect.
I was under no obligation to cooperate with their investigation.
Yeah.
because I was not an employee of the NFL. I was a freelancer. I was an independent contractor. And the other party just decided not to participate. And they were like, okay.
Well, I'm sure that was advice given to them by their lawyer, and probably the NFL was like, just don't say anything.
Yeah, the
I would
commissioner
imagine.
probably said,
Don't say
zip
anything.
it.
If you say nothing, then there's nothing to talk about.
And that's the thing. And that's something that unfortunately got left out of the documentary is I went into that investigation the same way I go into everything, which is I'm going to give people the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give people the benefit of a doubt that they're going to be good, honest people.
Yeah.
And that's just not how the world works.
Yeah.
I
No.
get told, I've been told by friends I'd make a terrible pirate. We've talked about that on this show. I make a terrible, because I expect people to be logical. I expect people to be fair. And that's just not how the world works. Especially when there's so much money on the line.
Yeah.
You know? So for instance, when I met with Roger Goodell, I told him at one point during our meeting, I said, you know, I'm not saying, because I told him, he got really mad and he goes, are you saying I can't do anything? I'm the commissioner. I can do whatever I want. And I said, I'm not saying you can't. I'm saying you won't.
Yeah.
I was like, there's a difference.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I said, I'm not worth anything to you. Protecting me is not worth anything to you. You're going to make more money off this man in his retirement selling his jerseys than any money you'll ever make off my likeness. You have no interest and no stake to protect me for. I'm a problem.
Yeah. I mean, and he's there to serve the league. He's there to serve the owners. Not you or justice or what's right and what's wrong. It's like I have bosses and I have to protect them. And so that's what it was. It wasn't about let's get to the bottom of this investigation and see what really happened. It's
No.
like let's figure out how to shut you up and spin this the way we need it spun.
Yeah, someone said to me the other day, they're like, people don't like having a squeaky clean person in the room if they themselves are not squeaky clean. Because the squeaky clean one is going to be like, the fuck's going on here, guys?
Guys, this isn't right.
Guys, this isn't right. There's some bad things happening. Did you guys know there's some bad things happening here? Let me show you.
It's like, oh, we all know.
So when people are like, that's why she'll never work in sport, I think the hardest part of the documentary is, because I teared up both times I got to this part of it, is they interview Jamel Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And she says at one point, Jen's career is over. And that was a really hard thing to hear.
Yeah. But in that avenue.
And that's what I have to remind myself.
In that avenue.
And that's what I have to remind myself.
Yeah.
Is, yeah, that part of my career's over, but like, look at what I've built.
Like my PGA career is over. There's no chance.
With your sciatica, absolutely.
There's no chance
But
I'm ever going
also,
to be in
you
the
don't have enough
PGA.
money to play golf, Eddie.
It's true. So I've come to terms with the fact my
You
career
can't even go to Top Golf, for Christ's sake.
is over.
Oh my God.
So it's just
Thanks, Keita.
that avenue is over. You've done a lot where
I've done a lot, and there's so much I've done that people aren't even aware of, you know?
Yeah.
Unless you work in Los Angeles, you know, you don't see all of the shit that I'm doing behind the scenes, you know? I've spent a lot of time here in LA, especially like since the pandemic,
yeah.
really building an amazing community for female and LGBTQ
No, yeah, I've
comedians.
noticed you've really put together quite.
Building an army.
Yeah.
But you know what it is?
I'm an ally. Just remember that.
I'm helping build the environment that I wish I had. You know,
No,
the
that's great.
supportive environment that I wish I had. Because when I look back at what happened to me in sports, and honestly in the first part of my comedy career, there's not enough space at the table for all of you. You know?
Yeah, that's always. I noticed that when I moved out here. It's always been like
There's not enough
there's
space.
that mentality of like, yeah, there's no room at the table. There's no room at the table.
There's not, because we have a girl.
Yeah.
We have our one girl. That's
have
all
that
we
type.
need. We have filled our quota, you know?
Yeah.
And
In reality, the table's huge, and there's room enough for
absolutely,
everybody. But
there's room enough for everybody. There's so many different, like I stress to women all the time. Whenever I see a woman getting weird about another woman getting success or talent, I'm like, what is that? Like, what makes you feel weird? What's bringing up this thing that you're like getting mad at her for having success?
Yeah.
And is it like, oh, is it just because your brain is seeing something that it wants and thinks that it can't have it because she has it? Her success doesn't mean you fail.
no,
It doesn't mean you can't have the same level of success.
Yeah.
You just need to find your version of it. And I stress that to women all the time. But it's so funny because even as I've done this, I've still had women stab me in the back.
well,
And even in creating this environment that I've created and being like, there's enough room for all of us, I've still had women stab me in the back. And I'm like, why'd you do that? Like, is it, and the fact of the matter is, they do it because it's so much easier to tear someone else down than to build your own shit.
Yeah, and they think if they're eliminating somebody or taking somebody out, that's one less person they have to compete with.
I'm not your competition.
They,
I never
but that's
have
the
been.
mentality.
I never
think
have been.
I
you
think
know?
it's more about misery loves company.
For sure.
And if you and horrible insecurity, like scarcity mindset, those are the
100%.
two. You know, it's like when people, if all of a sudden someone succeeds and they don't, fundamentally they don't think they're going to succeed, so they'd rather all the people around them not succeed too, instead of.
Or as long as I stay ahead of this person. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like we're running a race or something. And it's like, you're only competing against yourself. Like you're not competing against anybody else. But I think that was my biggest takeaway, you know, from everything was just watching Jamel come to my defense because she's been consistent this whole time. Jamel Hill's been consistent this whole time.
And she's going through her shit too.
Yeah, of course. As a black woman working in sports,
Yeah.
of course, you know. But she's been consistent this whole time. Like when you look back at all the articles and stuff and all the coverage that she had back then, she has not wavered in what her perspective in this whole thing was. And other women that were younger and less experienced and insecure used what happened to me as an opportunity to step on my neck and get ahead.
Yeah, because if they eliminate you, there's a space open. They're in their minds. There's a space open for them.
1,000%.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I had a picture of myself and this girl that like attacked me during the whole thing. Like wrote an article for ESPN and stuff like that about it. And I had a picture of the two of us at the Super Bowl the year before. And I was just like, this girl came running up to me at that party and was like, it's so impressive what you've been able to do. I can't believe you've built all of this just from like that appearance at the football game. Like it's so surreal. You've been such an inspiration to me, blah, 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 blah. And then when everything happened, she was like, well, I find it very hard to believe that Jen didn't do something to ask for this.
Wow.
And those are the same women that when Me Too came around, beat their chest and was like, oh, but look at how I was treated. And it's like, look at how you treated people. You know, everybody else in the like was screaming, me too, me too. I was like, this you? Just holding up like, that's what I think people have a problem with when it comes to me talking about this. They do not like having a mirror held up to them. And being like, okay, I'm taking accountability for my part. Now your turn. Like, what's your part, you
Yeah.
know?
Jen, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So when the topic comes up that you don't have a future in sports, and maybe I'm hearing this wrong. What is that? Why is that? Like
Because they're
if you
scared
wanted
of
to
me.
if you wanted to reinsert yourself in the sport arena,
Because they're scared of me and because we have to recognize that there are powers that keep me from getting a job. Blackballing is very real. Like I've seen it. I've been sent internal emails that I was not supposed to see.
Yeah. Well, they know like bringing you into whatever job that would be brings along a lot with it. Not just you and your
No.
talents, but it's like, okay, we have to answer all these questions. This is going to bring all this stuff back up to the surface. We're going to have to deal with this. We don't want to deal with all of that. That's going
But
to
when
come
I
with
hear
it.
that, I say, okay, you don't want to deal with that. Deal with your shit.
Well, they
If
won't
you're
deal with
so
your shit.
scared of me coming into your environment
Yeah.
and something bad happening, it's not me. It's the environment.
Right. And they don't want to deal with their environment. They're just trying to minimize risk and them getting in trouble. So no one wants to put their neck on the line to bring you in, because what if something happens, something goes, then okay, now they're now liable for it, and it's going to be their fault.
I know. So maybe train your employees to be better.
Well, we just train humans to be better, train the world to be better. It's just like it's such a
So yeah, when I hear that my career's over, it's my career in sports, you know? But honestly, someone asked me, they were like, what did you like working about? What did you like working in sports? About working in sports? And I said, asking me what I liked working about, like what I liked about working in sports, sorry, that's so hard to say, is like asking me what I liked about my most abusive boyfriend. Like, tell me about him. And it's like, it was terrible.
right.
It was absolutely terrible. You know what I liked what I liked about sports was I liked the stories. I liked the people. I liked that angle of it.
Yeah.
I liked learning about, I loved the stories about, like, I loved an underdog story.
Yeah, the human drama.
I loved that part of sports, like the component of it that was like, this person has worked their entire life for this. They've overcome so much, and now they get to compete on the biggest stage. Like, that's the shit that I got. I was like, yes, you know, like I'll watch Rudy all day. You know what I mean?
All these people come from all different backgrounds, and there's only a handful of spots available, and all these people, thousands and thousands of people working their whole lives to get to that spot.
Yeah.
And only a few people do. So it's,
But look, I've seen much, you know, like as much as we talk about like how the league protected him, I don't think the league protects the players enough from themselves.
oh yeah, themselves,
from
for sure.
themselves and from injury. At the end of the day,
They just use them.
they're just workhorses.
Yeah.
You know?
They just use them.
Like they would be working far harder on concussion protocol. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you can't really have. I mean, if they truly cared about the health of their players' brains, that you can't have football.
Yeah, you couldn't.
UFC has better concussion protocol than the NFL.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is. You know what I mean?
You know what also drives me nuts? Like you saying, or us talking about you not having a career based on this event, and then you look at someone like Michael Vick, who totally had a career post brutally murdering dogs.
He got comeback player of the year.
Fun fact, Michael Vick is in the documentary.
Oh,
He's actually in this
that's
documentary.
great.
And what's interesting is I was like, why him? And I truly believe it's because he's one of the few players that's like, fuck the NFL. I'm going to tell people how it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because the NFL did not give him the redemption story, like the shot at the redemption arc that they gave Brett Favre. They don't give him that swan song.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the fact is, what he did, atrocious. As someone who's worked in animal rescue, atrocious. However, he has made amends. He has worked his ass off to make amends. But I think the thing that doesn't get touched on enough in the documentary, and I'm sure it was just purely for editing stuff, and honestly because, quite frankly, it'll make a lot of people mad. And I think they wanted to make sure that the message of the film didn't get skewed.
Yeah. People can't see past. You really can't see past that.
Into a race issue.
Yeah.
But that's truly a big part of it. You know? The only players that came to my defense when this was going on were black NFL players. The only ones that came to my defense.
Well, and you also look at like Robert Kraft, his weird shit. When you look at, there's so many people.
Jerry Jones. I mean,
Jerry Jones being in that photo.
I mean, how many bodies are buried there?
I mean, it's like
it's
what
crazy.
the fuck?
Yeah.
And like all these dudes that are like, you know,
Yeah, but they're all, you're talking about
Deshaun
old white,
Watson.
old white billionaires.
Old white. You can't have that much money and that much power and not be corrupt.
because you
can't.
don't feel anyone's above you. You feel you're at the top of the food chain. So
Like,
you're going
I
to do
have-
whatever you want.
I have a really hard time watching sports in general. Like when the Yankees signed Adrelis Chapman, I mean, that just made it really. I'm like, the guy's a domestic abuse
Yeah.
guy.
Yep.
Why the fuck is that guy on the mound?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you got with Deshaun Watson, and they signed that guy.
$250 million guaranteed.
Meanwhile, this guy's like fucking, raiding, massage parlor. I fuck them. I don't watch a lot of that shit anymore because
I
of
just
it.
feel like every job out there has morality clauses.
Yeah.
Like if any one of us did some of this shit as a regular person, we'd be in jail.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
you have to
We'd
like.
be in jail. We'd definitely be fired. You know what I mean?
I think you have to. There's different reactions depending on different things. Like with the Ray Rice situation, when you saw him actually hitting the woman,
the NFL got forced into a corner.
they
with that.
did, but that's because the public
of the
saw
tape.
it. The public saw it,
And
they didn't
that's
hear
the
about
thing
it.
with my situation is they didn't show anyone
Yeah.
anything.
If the public sees it, it's a different story as
They're
opposed
going
to
to
hear
see it in a week.
When you hear
Well,
it,
they'll
you
see
can
it this week, I should say. It's
when
going
you
to air.
hear it, you can spin it and justify it and whatever you want to do to mental gymnastics you do to be okay with it. But when you see it in front of you, you have to go, okay, yeah, we can't.
And look, I think the one thing that I'm prepared for people to say is that it's a picture of a dick. It's not that big of a deal. And what people don't realize is that's not what the issue was. The issue was the imbalance of power. The issue was someone who was way higher on the food chain taking advantage, or at least attempting to, and trying to force a subordinate to do something that they did not want to do to keep their job. That is the issue. It's not the picture of the dick. The dick is embarrassing for everyone involved. For everyone involved. Me, because I received it. Him,
Because
Google it.
That's what he's
Google
got.
it. Google it. Google it. But that's not the issue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's not the part, and that's the part that dumb trolls and people with limited capacity are going to try to come at me with. I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
But that's not what this is about.
No, but on the surface, that's what they see.
Yeah.
That's what they feel.
I'm not comparing what happened to me to women who have experienced domestic violence, women who have been beaten, women who have had sexual assault happen to them. I'm not comparing myself to them, And I even said this, and I don't remember if it made the cut or not. Like, I'm not even comparing what happened to me to what happened to the people in Mississippi who lost, what was it, over $8 million in welfare money to the poorest of poor.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just saying, like, we're just here. Like, everybody forgets about us. We're just here to service his story. When it's like there are people whose lives have been impacted by someone else. Like, hurt people, man. That's the thing that I came away with when I watched the other night when I was like, oh, I see why this happened. I see how we got here. And when you reverse engineer it like that, it kind of puts a new perspective on things,
Yeah.
Any questions? I'm shocked he doesn't have more about the dick.
I'm staying away from the dick right now
Good for you,
in this
Keita.
episode.
You're growing.
No, I'm shrinking, actually.
But truly, like, that is the one thing that I think
Yeah.
I'm ready for is people to say that,
Yeah.
And it's the imbalance of power. It's the same thing.
Well, that's
What I look back,
that permeates.
and I
throughout
think everybody
society.
in this room will remember. Remember how the media portrayed the whole Monica Lewinsky thing?
Yeah. I lived in DC at the time. I mean, I was like right outside DC.
How old were you? High
Just
school?
right out of college.
Really?
Yeah. It was 90, what was that, 98, 97? Actually, no, I was out here. I just moved out here.
Was it that late? I thought it was early. Like,
Like,
yeah,
it was the
Clinton?
second term.
Okay.
It was 98, I believe. 97, 98.
Oh, I thought it was like 96.
But it's so...
It was the
Because there were like 2 years of
It might have
impeachment,
happened in 96.
I
but
think
like
he got
everything-
caught in like 95, 96, but it...
Well, he wouldn't
and
have got
the
reelected.
trial and all this
He wouldn't have
stuff.
been reelected had it come out before
Wait,
his
when did
second
it-
term.
Oh, the second term.
He was
ended
90.
Keita, this is your job. Just Google it.
2000.
He won in 96.
Sitting off camera, just
He won his
Google
second
it.
term in 96.
Oh,
Fall of
okay,
96.
okay.
But I look back at that, and even as like a kid, I'm like, oh, we were terrible to her. You know what I mean?
Oh, awful.
We were
The
awful
jokes
to
and
her.
shit that, I mean, it was,
We still are.
yeah. Well, not
Oh,
now.
also
Now
Anita Hill. I mean,
Yeah.
that fucking guy is still in. I mean, it's
yeah.
fucking throw up.
It's and again, like I said, and that's the one thing that people are like, what do you want people to take away from this doc? And I want them to take away that, like, be careful how you consume your media, and be careful to snap judgment when we make about people that we see in the media, because the internet told me who I was before I had a chance to figure it out myself.
Yeah.
You know,
But again, the media, like we talked about at the beginning.
and they got it wrong.
Of course they do. 'Cause
And I've had to live with that shame of this projection that they put on me.
yeah. Because they knew that would get clicks and views and people reading about it. And it would play on people's emotions and not their intellect. And like, that's what the media does now. It's just, they want to feed into that. I just want people angry watching this, because people happy don't watch the news. Happy people don't give a shit. Happy people are living their lives.
Yeah, I hate
They want
watching
angry
the
people
news.
clicking on their articles, getting more angry.
So like I told you guys, I had to tape a second day for them because Netflix saw the first cuts of it and they were like, this girl's so good. They were like, this girl is so interesting and so well spoken, and so she really lays it all out there for us in a way that's very comprehensive about what happened and where we went wrong, you know? So they made me do a second day of taping, and we did it at my house. And I was like, the only rule was, and when we taped at my house, I was like, you cannot make me cry in my house. I was like, this is my safe space. I was like, don't come in here and like traumatize me while I'm sitting on my couch, you know? And for the most part, they complied. But they did, at the end of the day, they handed me this like letter, like this printout. And it was a letter or like an article that AJ, the guy from Deadspin, had written.
Yeah.
Post going through AA when he was making amends and things like that. And
Is that the guy you did a podcast
Why
with?
are you looking at me? You're giving away my anonymity.
Stop
Jesus
it.
Christ.
No, I'm just making sure everybody's following the plot here.
You don't see my eyeballs?
Because you don't know the plot as well as Eddie does. You know what I mean? I'm making sure you're caught up. So yeah, no, backstory with this, Keita, is the man that sold me out at Deadspin. I had never met him in person. I had never met him or Favre in person. I've never met Favre in person. But the guy at Deadspin I'd never met until he adopted a dog from my rescue. That's how small this world is.
What?
Yeah, it's a crazy story. You guys should definitely, there's like a couple of different podcasts. I just did a podcast on Slate. I think it's like Death, Sex, and Money or something like that. We did a podcast together where we went through it all, and just like the lack of journalistic integrity and just the idea of grace,
Yeah.
you know, for people who have harmed us. And we talk a lot about AA and like what an impact it's had and him making amends to all the people that he's hurt as a journalist, you know? Journalist, air quotes. But they made me read a letter that he wrote, and he basically said in there, like, what I did to Jenn was wrong. What I did to Jenn was wrong, and he goes, and I did it because I didn't see her as a person. And that was a really hard thing to hear myself say out loud, because I've always felt that. Like, I've always felt like the internet just saw me as a picture, and it was so much easier to villainize me because they just saw whatever picture.
Well, the internet's two-dimensional.
Yeah, but they just
So-
saw whatever picture
Yeah.
people gave them of me.
Yeah.
They didn't see me on my day-to-day. They
There's
saw the salacious images that people purchased from photographers that I didn't authorize. Like, there are men still out there making money off images of me that they took without my consent in this fucking town. And, like, they're like, if you have a problem with it, talk to Getty, get him taken down. And it's like, no, how about we be responsible
Yeah.
as news outlets and stop perpetuating this cycle of people being taken advantage of? Like, I literally got into a fight yesterday with a big outlet, and I was like, please don't use any of these pictures. And they're like, well, I don't have any control over that. And I said, yes, you do.
Yeah,
I
you do.
said, that's literally what this entire interview was about, is about how I was abused by the media. You guys have a chance to fix this. You guys have a chance to right this ship. You guys have a chance to show that you fucking learned something. Or we're just going to keep beating our heads in this fucking sand. You know? And I was like, you choosing to use this person's pictures is spitting all over the interview we just did. And I was like, but you do you. You do you. But at least I have receipts that I asked you not to. You know? And it's just like, I just want people to be better. I want media to be better. You know? I want people to stop being taken advantage of. And look, I know it's something we sign up for, like living in the public eye, but like, at what point do we get to still be people? You know, get to still be perceived as a human, because that'd be great.
Yeah.
But I really hope everybody will watch it, share it. I'm sure this video will be found by people who aren't necessarily fans of the show. So, but you know what? I welcome the discourse. Truly, I welcome respectful, intelligent discourse. And I know that's a really hard thing to ask for these days. But I welcome it. Truly.
If it's there.
And I'm really interested to see how this plays out. Because again, when I taped this, I thought we'd be in a different place, but I'm not, this isn't new territory for me.
Yeah.
You know? It's like the first person through the wall is always the bloodiest. And like I've never been the person that's been scared to be like, hey, this is wrong. And if that makes me a liability, and if that makes me a bad person to people, or if that makes people scared of me, then fucking bring it. You know? Anyways, I don't think we need Florida Man for this
No,
one.
I don't think. I think we're good.
Oh, I'm excited, but
I'm
scared.
I'm proud of you for doing it. When you first told me you were doing it, I was like,
Are you sure?
yeah. I was in my head. I was like, do you want to go through this
Dude,
again?
this was like the 12th time someone had come to me with it.
I remember you saying a few other times people were mentioning, you were like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do
I'm
it.
not going to do it.
I'm not going to do it.
Because it just felt like people were asking me to slit my wrist in public
Right.
over and
that's
over
what
again.
I was like, and in my head, I'm like, yeah.
Prove to us this hurt you.
And then you said last year you were doing it. I'm like, okay. All right.
Because this director, Rebecca Gillitz, Rebecca earned my trust.
Well, I thought that when you said you were going to, like, okay, they must be doing, whoever's involved with it must be handling it the right way. It must be being done the right way for Jen to say yes to.
I looked at her body of work and I was like, this individual knows what she's doing. But more importantly, like when she first came to me, she's like, and it'll be produced and directed by women. And I said, no offense, Rebecca. I said, no one hurt me worse than women. So you're going to have to come at me with something better than that.
That doesn't
like
help.
truly, I responded to her. I felt bad. I feel bad looking at it now, knowing who she is. Because I was like dealing with a dog you had just pulled out of the shelter.
Yeah.
Like I was like, she's like, this bitch is going to fight me. Like she's going to bite me, But I had been so beaten and
You're
abused.
just protecting yourself. That's
Yeah,
all you're
of
doing.
course.
You're just protecting yourself.
Of course. And I still have to.
Yeah.
And I have to be okay with the fact that sometimes me protecting myself might make people angry or uncomfortable. But like, why am I hurting myself to make other people comfortable? Like, it's been learning how to like set professional boundaries. That's what this has been a really great exercise in, you know? I mean, like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I'm okay with it. Because that's the beautiful thing about comedy is like, I control what happens to me. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, we're all in control of our careers for the most part.
For the most part.
There's still political shit, but you can create.
You can control the things you're doing. You're not in control.
You can
necessarily.
create. You can get on stage.
You can create. You're in control of what you can create.
Yeah, and I really, we don't have. It's so funny. We don't have an HR in comedy.
No, well, there wouldn't be a comedy business if there was an HR department.
We don't have an HR, but I do.
It would have been shut down a long
But
time.
oddly enough, for the most part, Eddie, with the exception of a handful of a few bad actors, I really feel like there is more self-policing going on in like there's more like honor among thieves. You know what I mean? Where we all go, okay, I see you.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot more of that.
Sometimes there needs to be a little. I mean, we police each other a ton when someone lifts a joke off somebody, but like All right, but are you gonna please someone who's treating someone like a piece of shit?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, I always do that.
You know.
But that's just me. I think I'm one of the few comics people are like female comics that men are scared of. And they should be. Let's be honest. Because I'm just not afraid to call it out.
Yeah.
And I think that we all should be like that. Don't be afraid to call out bad behavior. Like, let's make this better for everybody, you know? And I really hope that this doc does something like that. But thank you. I told you guys this would be a very special episode.
Very special.
Sorry, there'll be lots of stupid jokes next week.
Next
I promise.
week will be funny.
Yeah, I promise. But whatever. I'm still funny.
No,
That's honestly something that made me when I watched the doc the other night.
Yeah.
With other people. They burst out laughing a couple of times
good.
at stuff I said, and they were like, "It's so crazy that you're still able to come off as funny when you were talking about something that is so damaging to
You
you."
can't have levity.
And I was like, I truly, comedy saved my life.
Yeah.
You know, comedy saved my life. Comedy gave me a second chance. You know,
Comedy's the most important thing.
for sure. That's why
Me.
you guys are here.
Anyway.
But anyways, Eddie, where can people find you?
At Eddie Pence on all the socials, or
Send him all the dick
eddiepence.com.
pics and
Please don't. Don't do that. I'll
send him all the hate mail.
I'll send
I'm
it
gonna be
today.
offline.
I'm good. Don't need those dick pics.
I'm gonna be offline probably for the next
Butthole.
week.
Send me butthole pics.
Butthole pics, got it. You're like, why are volcano aerial shots? Sorry, I think I just stole your bit.
It's a dead bit.
It's a dead bit.
That's my old closer.
Yeah.
Can't use it anymore. I
Once
burned
you
it.
once
I
you
burned
burn it, it's gone.
I burned it in the special.
But yeah, direct all your hate mail at Eddie. I'll be I'll be
Please.
forwarding all my stuff there.
I need
I'm
it.
joking. I just can't wait to see how this pans out, honestly.
It'll be interesting, one way or the other.
Yep.
But I'm glad you did it. It needs to
So
be done.
please like, subscribe, share us with your friends. We're usually way more fun than this, but this had to be done. It felt very crazy not talking about this here
Yeah.
when it's a huge thing that's happening in my life.
Yeah. It needed to be.
I
we
was
need
on
to talk.
television when this first happened and they wouldn't let me talk about it. And I was just like, I'm not repeating the same mistakes that we did last time. Like, I'm not hiding. So,
Yeah. It needed to be talked about. I'm glad we did it.
but check out all of our other episodes. If you just happen to find us because of the documentary being released, welcome. This is not our typical run of show. But we keep it light around here,
Yes,
and it's usually a
much
lot of
lighter.
fun and usually some heartfelt stuff.
Yeah. And there's
So-
more dick talk from Keita.
Yeah.
Much more boner talk.
I appreciate you reeling it in today.
Snap. You know what? I was gonna say instead of Florida man, we should have done Mississippi man today.
That one's too easy to guess, Keita. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week on another episode of Not Today. Bye.